Good morning. We're learning Tractate Eruvin, Perek Rishon, the first chapter. The name of the chapter is Movishu Gavria, and the first page, and we start from the top of the page, page Vav, 6 Amud Aleph. So, Mitzidei Be'eser, Merosho B'Daled, speaking about the breach. If you look at the diagram 1, you can see the breach that is referencing to. Breach in front, breach on side. 10 amas is the maximum breach that does not disrupt the enclosure, but from its front, the breach was in a front wall that partially closes the entranceway. Then just under 4 tfachim is the maximum breach that does not disrupt the enclosure. Number 1, number 2, number 3. It says, and the full tefach section of the side wall remains standing adjacent to the entranceway as per Rabbi Ami's ruling. And number 2 says, as stated in the Mishnah below, a breach of 10 amis or less does not disrupt a partition, provided that the standing portion is greater than the openings. Rather, such breaches are regarded as mere entrances in the partition. See diagram 3. For example, in the front of the mavoi was 20 amis wide. The width is 20 amis. As stated in the Mishnah, a lechi or koiro is ineffective in this case unless 10 amis are walled off, so that the remaining opening is not wider than 10 amis. So from here we see that a mavoi that the opening is wider than 10 amis doesn't have the definition of a mavoi anymore. The present ruling refers to a breach in the walled portion of the mavoi's front. A gap of 4 tfachim or more, however, must be repaired before carrying can be permitted in the mavoi for reasons that will be explained below. So Gemara asked the question, Ma'ishna mitzido be'eser the Omar Pischau, Merosho Nami Pischau. What did you say about the side? That if there is Eser, there is 10 Tfachim, 10 Amis, it's considered a Pesach, or an entrance.
It's different. 10 Amis and 10 Tfachim is a big difference.
Major difference, yeah. But the opening of a mavoi needs to be 10 Amis, right? If it's more than 10 Amis, then it loses its designation as a mavoi, or its title as a mavoi. So the Gemara asked, "Merosho nami pischo." When the breach is from the front, let us also say that it is an entrance, as long as it does not exceed 10 amis. Why then did Rav invalidate? One second, David texted me that he can't see. Okay. David, are you there? David? The question the Gemara asks, Ma'ishna mitzidu be'eser domo pischahu, merosho nami nema pischahu. Why is a breach from the side, an opening from the side of the mavoi, different in that it can be up to 10 amis? The Omar Pischo, because one says that it is an entrance in the partition rather than a gap. Considered an entrance, it's no longer a gap. Merosho nami nema pischo. When the breach is from the front, we should say also that it is an entrance and not a gap, as long as it does not exceed 10 amis. So the question is, why Rav invalidate a breach in the front of only 4 tfachim? Should be up to 10 tfachim. So we're dealing with a case, the mavoi was breached in a corner. The corner was breached, opening part of the side wall as well as part of the front wall, only then did the Rav rule that a breach of 4 tfachim in front invalidates the enclosure. The feast because people do not usually construct entrances in corners. Since this opening be viewed as an entrance, it is considered a gap in the walls that disrupt the enclosure. If the gap, however, affects only the front wall, Rav agrees that the front is no different from the side, and the enclosure is not disrupted unless the gap is more than 10 ames. Rav Huna altogether disputes the ruling cited by Rav Hanan bar Rava, in the name of Rav. In either case, whether the breach is in the mavei's front wall or in its side wall, 4 tfachim is the width at which a breach disrupts the enclosure. So did Rav Huna say to Rav Hanan bar Rava, do not disagree with me in regard to what Rav actually ruled in this matter. The Rav lemechamrio. For Rav happened to be in a place called the Mechamrio, where a question was brought before him concerning a mavoi whose side wall was breached 4 tfachim. Ve'ovad uvda kavosi. And here Rav made an actual ruling, as I have ruled, disallowing carrying in that mavoi. Omar lei Rav Hanan said to Rav Huna, no inference regarding Rav's view in this matter can be drawn from the incident in the Chamro, because Rav biko motzo vegoder bogodar. So Rav found an open field. What happened over there? He found an open field and fenced it in. He fenced it in. Which means Rav found the people of the Chamria ignorant and lax in keeping Torah law, so he gave an especially stringent ruling to distance them from any semblance of carrying on Shabbos. Actually, though Rav holds, what does he hold? That a side wall is not considered breached unless the gap is more than 10 amos. Less than 10 amos, it's an entrance. Amar Rav Nachum bar Yitzchak Avoz Rav Huna mistabro. Good morning to all. Amar Rav Nachum bar Yitzchak Avoz Rav Huna mistabro. I think like Rav Huna. I agree with Rav Huna. It makes sense what he said, that Rav holds that a breach in a mavei's side wall may not be 4 tfachim or wider, as shown by the following discussion. Deitmar mavei okoim. If it's a bent mavei, you can see it in the diagram. Rav Omar Terosa mefulosh, is its law is as if it's an open mavei. Mefulosh is open. Each leg is viewed as an open mavei, whose adjustment, meaning some mavei, some alleyways have a dead end, and some alleyways there's an opening. You can go from one side to the other. Rav says its law is that of an open mavei, each leg is viewed as an open mavei, whose adjustment requires a tzuras ha-pesach. It has to have an opening, an entrance, a normal entrance opening or shape of an entrance at one end, and a lechi or kairo, a beam, at the second. Shmuel says its law in 682 on the left column. Shmuel Omar Terosa Kesosum, but Shmuel says its law is that of closed mavei, whose adjustment does not require tzuras ha-pesach, does not have to have a shape of an entrance, since each leg of the bent mavei is considered closed at the bend, and it is bundled there by another mavoi, not the street. All that is required is a lechi or koira at the two opening to the street. Again, the lechi and the koira is there to make it a place where you can carry. Now, what are we dealing with? What is the width of the bend in the bent mavoi, whose adjustment was disputed by Rav and Shmuel? If you say that it is wider than 10 ames, Shmuel says that in this case, if the bent mavoi his width is more than 10 ames, the bent mavoi's law is that of a closed mavoi. Surely, when the bend is wider than 10 ames, the bent mavoi must be viewed as one continuous mavoi that curves and is thus an open mavoi. Elalav be'eser. Must it not therefore be that the bend is only 10 ames or narrower? Rav says that in such a case, its law is as if it's an open mavoi, although the opening at the bend is only 10 ames or less. Alma pirtzas mavoi mitzido bedalet. We see that according to Rav, a breach of a mavoi from its side renders carrying in the mavoi prohibited, even if the breach is only 4 tfachim, as Rav Huna asserts. The proof, however, is not conclusive. Rav Chanan barav ashaniotum de kaboki borabi. Rav Chanan said it is different. Rav Chanan barava, because the public bent mavoi is different. He said because the public or the many travels through it, since it opens to the streets at both ends, what we call mavoi mefulosh, that it has an opening from both sides. Rav Chanan's ruling, on the other hand, refers to cases in which the public does not generally travel through the bridge. And we can think about it as many times people, let's say, walk to shul or walk to different places on Shabbos. How much of a gap would make you feel comfortable to go through that gap? There's, let's say, a fence. Instead of going and making a big circle, you're going to go through the fence if there's a little breach in the fence. So how much of a breach would encourage people to go through this? It's saying, Pirza Kiros Lagona, meaning there's a breach, there's an opening, it calls out the thief. It tells him, come here, come this way. Yeah. There's a breach here, there's an opening. So how much of a breach would encourage the public, to come through this mavoi? How much of an opening would encourage them to come?
Probably like 6 feet or something.
So he says the difference between whether it's daled, meaning we see that according to Rav, a breach of a mavoi from its side renders carrying in the mavoi prohibited, even if the breach is only 4 tfachim. The Rav Chanan barava shani also the kaboke barabi. He says no, many people are passing through it. Miklad Rav Huna safal gav the liboke barabi. So Rav Huna, who disputes Rav Chanan barava's ruling, would limit the size of a breach to 4 tfachim, even where the public does not travel through the bridge. Accordingly, the Gemara is asking, why is this different from the ruling of Rav Ami and Rav Asi, which we learned in 5a, that a side breach may be up to 10 ames wide as long as there is 4 tefach board standing adjacent to the entranceway.
So if it's on this side, you can have a 4 tefach slat, and then 10 amas, which is like 30 feet or something, going on the side. That's what you're saying. So you got this little thing like this, and then 10 amas, which is like crazy.
It says it's dealing with a case first to where the public traverses the breach. whereas Rabbi Amin and Rabbi Asi, who allow a breach of up to 10 amis, refers to where the public does not traverse the breach. But now that the Gemara has asserted that Rav Huna qualifies a breach of 4 tfachim, even when the public does not traverse the breach, how can this ruling be reconciled with Rav Hami and Rav Asi? It's a question also mentioned by Rashba.
If you look at that picture, and then you go on the right side, and between the two houses you put an opening, so then people would go.
Well, I think it's not the end of it. It's still we're going on and on.
I'm just saying, I could, whatever. Okay, let's go. I got it. I know.
The Gemara says also the Ikagidude. There in the ruling of Rabbi Asi, we must say that there are ridges remaining in the breached area, which physically impede passage through the breach. Or ridges means that it's not comfortable. There's still pricky things that are coming out.
You have a big pile of stuff there, so people aren't going to go over it.
No, he's saying the breach itself is not smooth.
Right.
Whereas here in Rav Huna's ruling, there are no ridges that physically impede passage through the breach.
Right. I mean, you can have a bunch of construction material there from whatever, you know.
Yeah, Tanu Rabban, how do we adjust a street that is a Reshus Rabim? It's a public domain. How do you turn it into a private domain?
Yeah, House 441, not a problem. Or lines.
We said in the beginning, in the introduction to Tractate Eruvin, where it speaks about the Reshuyos, the different domains. So we said the Reshus Rabim, a public domain, is a place. One of the qualifications of a public domain is that 600,000 people go through it, right?
Okay, you're not doing that on those two streets.
It says that there is the additional condition that is used. What is the condition? It says Reshus Rabim, public domain, is a public street, area or highway that is at least 16 amis wide, 16 amis wide, and is not surrounded by walls.
So those two are like that.
And according to some views, among them Rashi, Torah Gemara, there's additional conditions. So 16 amis and no walls is not enough. He says you have to have that it be used by a population of at least 600,000 people, the counted population of the Jewish encampments during their sojourn in the wilderness. It is publicly forbidden to transfer an object from a Reshus Harabim to a Reshus Hayochid, from public to private, or vice versa, or to move an object for Amis in Reshus Harabim. So, how can I do transfer Reshus Harabim in a public domain? So Tanu Rabbanon, the rabbis taught in a Baisa, Keitzad me'arvin derech Reshus Harabim. How do we adjust a street that is a Reshus Harabim? Ois etzuas haPesach mikan velechi vekoiro mikan. One constructs a form of a doorway, tzuras haPesach. He formed a doorway here across one end of the street. Velechi vekoiro mikan, and he put a cross beam at the opposite end of the street. So on one side of the street he formed a doorway, and the other side of the street he puts a cross beam from one side to the other. That's one opinion. Chananya Omer, but Chananya says the extent of adjustment that is necessary is in fact debated by Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel. Bet Shammai Omrim, Bet Shammai say Ois Delis Mikan. One construct a door here across one end of the street, V'delet Mikan, and a door in the other side of the street. So he makes both doors. And when one exits or enters through one of these doors, he must immediately close the door behind him. Beis Hillel say ois delas mikan vekoiro mikan. One constructs a door here across one end of the street, and a lechi or koiro here at the opposite end of the street.
So wait a minute, we're talking about this street where that 600,000 people are going through? Or
It's like, how do you turn? It says, how do you transfer in Reshus Harabim? In order for you to carry in Reshus Harabim, you have to do, according to Beis Shammai, 2 doors on both sides, and according to Beis Hillel, you do a door on one side, a doorway on one side, and a beam or lechi, koira or lechi, on the other side, cross beam on the other side. Which is the opinion of, seemingly like the first opinion that we mentioned. Tanu Rabbanon, Beis Hillel says the same thing.
I don't even see where the wire is for the Arab over here. What should be over by Clinmore? Isn't that the end of the Arab? I'm just saying, in terms of the street and this thing.
Wait, you'll soon see. Well, how can the wire of the Eruv makes it an Eruv?
Yeah.
So there's we didn't get to that, but there's a lot of laws of like, in terms of when the wire goes from one pole to the other.
Right.
There's a question also on the top of the pole. Usually electric poles, they have where is the center point, if it's in the middle or it's in the side, if it can be considered a lechi or cannot be considered a lechi. So
I'm gonna go look for one of these days.
you can't see it. You have to talk to
Is it Kolarski?
yeah, he's the one that is in charge of the Eruv, so you can walk around. I can show you the old Eruv. The old Eruv is on Kimberley. You can see on the poles of Kimberley, you can see a string that goes over the Comcast wires. So the Gemara says, Reshus Harabim mi me'arvo, but can Reshus Harabim in a public domain adjusted? How can you adjust Reshus Harabim? Who can put a doorway in the middle of 441? So, Vatanyo Yosel Kenama Rabbi Yehuda, moreover, Rabbi Yehuda said, going into page 12, 6b1, Mi sholushne votim. If someone had 2 houses, and in between the 2 houses there was a Reshus Harabim in between. There's a public domain in between. Vishnei tzidei Reshus Harabim. If you look at diagram 1, it shows it clearly. You have a house on one side of the road and another house on the other side of the road. Now the road itself is a public domain. It's what is called common area, that everyone is allowed to use this main road.
Right.
So what do you do if you want to transfer from one house to the other?
You want to carry me across the street.
So ois lechi mikan v'lechi mikan. He makes a lechi. If you look, he puts like a post on 2 sides. You can see in the diagram. Ois lechi mikan v'lechi mikan. He constructs a lechi here at one end of the houses, and the lechi at the other end of the house. A kol mikan v'kol mikan, or a korah here and a korah here, at each end of the house. And he made them carry in the street that is between. So the sages said to him, we cannot adjust the Reshus Harabim in this matter, using legal rather than actual partitions or doors to close off both open ends of the street. How could the first Baita then assert that according to Beis Hillel, even one door is sufficient? And perhaps you will say that the sages who said we cannot adjust the Reshus Harabim in this manner meant only bechach udelei me'arvo, in this manner described by Rabbi Yehuda, it cannot be adjusted. O hobid loses me'aravo, but through the use of doors, a single door at one end of the street, it can be adjusted, and thus their view accords with the one that Hananya attributes to Beis Hillel. Ve'amar Rabba bar Chana amar Rabbi Yochanan. Yerushalayim, the city of Yerushalayim. We know that the city of Yerushalayim is called a walled city,
Right.
surrounded by a wall. Yerushalayim, the city of Yerushalayim, ilmoled lasisyonin olos balaylo, were it not that its doors were closed at night. Chayavim oleo mishum reshus harabim. One would be liable there for carrying in reshus harabim. V'amar
So lots of sections now that are not in the wall.
yeah, halachically is any city that was walled in the time of Yeshua ben Nun.
I mean, you have the wall, and then you have the city.
Now it's not walled, but I'm saying
No, no,
originally it was
right.
walled.
I understand that, but now the walled city is only a fraction of where Yerushalayim is. No.
Probably.
Miles to Neve Yaakov is like 10 or 15 miles out.
So you're saying that Neve Yaakov was an annex to Yerushalayim? It was not original Yerushalayim? We don't know.
Right.
Maybe it was.
Well, the wall. If you're going to say the wall is down.
Maybe the wall was included also in Neve Yaakov. I'm not sure. But what about Pisgah Zev and
I don't know. All right, I don't know. Okay.
So Amar Rav Yehuda. So over here it says, if not for the doors of Yerushalayim being closed at night back then, one would be liable in those avenues for carrying in Reshus Harabim. We see that Reshus Harabim does not lose its status until it has until it has doors at both ends. Amar Rav Yehuda said that the first Baita cited does not discuss the adjustment of an actual Reshus Harabim. Rather, Hachikam, this is what the Baita means when it refers to adjusting a road that is a Reshus Harabim. Keitzad me'orvin mivois and mefuloshin Reshus Harabim. How do we adjust mavois that open on both sides, meaning it's mavois and mefuloshin, that they have opening on both sides, to Reshus Harabim? Such movies do not themselves have the status of a Reshus Harabim, but are merely streets that run between one Reshus Harabim and another. One construct Tzuras HaPesach here at one opening of the Movi to the Reshus Harabim, and he makes a lechi or a koyer here at the opposite opening of the Movi. Didn't we just say that this was the opinion of Beis Hillel? Beis Hillel said, Oisadelas Mikan, he makes a doorway on one side, and then on the other side of the street he places a lechi. Over here he says, Oisatzuras HaPesach also, v'lechi v'koyer Mikan. Let's go to page 6b2. Itmar, it was stated regarding the dispute between the Tanakama and Hananya concerning the adjustment of a Mavei. How do you adjust a Mavei that opens at both ends to Reshus Harabim? Rav Amar Ilcheta Tanakama. Rav says the halacha follows the Tanakama who holds that Tzuras HaPesach at one opening and a lechi or koira at the other is sufficient. Shmuel says the halacha follows Chananya in the name of Beis Hillel. Require a door at one opening and a lechi or koira at the other. In Chananya's view, according to Beis Hillel, that a Mavei open at both ends to the Reshus Harabim requires a door at one end of the Mavei and a lechi or koira at the other. So, must one close that door, or he doesn't have to close the door? Tashma Shmuel Rav Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel he doesn't need to lock it. Similarly, Rav Masna said he doesn't have to lock the door. Rav Masna said that it happened to me personally, an incident that happened, and Shmuel told me one does not have to close the door. They asked Ravanan, Omarlu, come and see these gates, Abuli, of the city of Nardor. See, look at the gates of Nardor, which is a name of a place, which stand where the Mava is open to Rishus Harabim, the Taimon at Palga B'Afro, which are sunk halfway in sand, in an open position.
So that you're stuck.
Obviously, these gates cannot be closed. And the master Shmuel entered and exited these gates, surely noticing that they were stuck open. He didn't tell us to lock it. We see that Shmuel allows carrying in such a mavai, even if the door is stuck open. Those doors of Nardar were stuck in a partially closed position, which is perhaps sufficient to qualify as closed. So we cannot prove from there that Shmuel would allow a mavai door to remain completely open. When Rav Nachman came to Nardar and he saw the gate stuck fast, he said, clear out the sand that prevents closing the door. So maybe Rav Nachman would say that you need to lock the doors. The Gemara says, Loi. Rav Nachman does not necessarily disagree. Since they are fit to close, since the sand is cleared away and there is nothing obstructing their closing, even though they are not actually closed, they are just a mavai. There was the case of a certain bent mavai that was in the city of Nardor. This bent mavai was actually three intersecting mavais in the configuration of the letter Ches, like the letter Ches, one mavai, second and third. So the people of Nardor placed on this mavais the stringencies of both of Rav and Shmuel. They combined the stringent ruling of Rav with the stringent ruling of Shmuel. Is thereby requiring that it have doors at both bends in order to be adjacent for carrying. Even though neither Rav nor Shmuel would have ruled this way, as the Gemara explains, Chumri de Rav, they follow the stringency of Rav. The Omar Tirose Kemefulosh, who says that a bent mavai law is that of an open mavai. But Rav said that the halacha follows that Tanakama, who disputes Chananyo and ruled that an open mavai needs only a tzuras haPesach, has to have a doorway at one opening and a lechi or koiro at the other. Why then did Rav require doors at the bends? The answer is that in this regard they ruled Kishmuel in accordance with the more stringent view of Shmuel. The Omar halacha kechananyo, said the halacha follows Chananyo in the name of Beis Hillel, that one the one end of an open mavai must be adjusted with a door. V'omar Shmuel terose kisasum, but Shmuel said that a bent mavai law is that of closed mavai. Why then did they require an adjustment at the bends? The answer is that in this regard they ruled kerav in accordance with the more stringent view of Rav. Domar teroso kemefulash. If you can't close the door, it's considered open mavai. Said that in a bent mavai, law is that of an open mavai. The Gemara questions the propriety of this ruling adopted by the people of Nardor. It is proper for us to follow two stringencies, each of which is propounded by an authority who rejects the other stringency. Should we rather consistently follow the ruling of one authority or the other? V'atanya, le'olam halacha k'v'sila, we learned that the halacha always follows b'sila. So why are we following the stringencies of Rav and Shmuel? But one who wishes, even though halacha follows b'sila, it says if one wishes to act in accordance with Beis Shammai, according to Beis Shammai's view, may do so. Kediva Beis Hillel oise. Or in accordance with Beis Hillel's view, he may do so. Mikula Beis Shammai, Mikula Beis Hillel. But if he chooses to do the leniencies, to follow the leniencies of Beis Shammai, the leniencies of Beis Hillel is considered Rasha, the wicked man. And it says if you choose to follow the stringencies of Beis Shammai and the stringencies of Beis Hillel, you are like a fool who walks in the darkness. It tells me, the fool goes in the darkness. Quoting Koheles, chapter 2, verse 14. It says either you follow the leniencies and the stringencies of Beis Shammai, or you follow the leniency and the stringencies of Beis Hillel. You can't be a wishy-washy. You can't jump from one rabbi to the next. This is self-contradictory. He says, 1 second, you just told me before that always halacha follows Beis Hillel. But whoever wants to do like Beis Shammai, he may do it. So why can't I just do it when I want follow Beis Shammai, when I want follow Beis Hillel? The Gemara says, "Lei kasha." It's not there's no difficulty. Kan kaidem baskel, kan lacha baskel. When Beis Hillel and you follow, if you want to follow Beis Shammai, you can follow Beis Shammai before the heavenly voice. What was the heavenly voice? The heavenly voice says halacha should be like Beis Hillel. But le'achar baskoil, here in the Baisa's opening statement, which rules that the halacha follows Beis Hillel, it refers to the time after the heavenly voice directed the Beis Hillel opinion be followed. Thereafter, it was mandatory to follow Beis Hillel view. So the Baisa's two parts then refer to two different time periods. Before the Baskela or after by same, or you can argue that both of them were said after the Baskela. Both statements refer to the time after the heavenly voice directed the Beis Hillel's opinion be followed. Rabbi Yeshua it reflects the view of Yeshua, who pays no attention to heavenly voice that dictate what the law should be. It says famous saying, the Lo Bashamayim, you should not rule according to heavenly voices.
Right. I was wondering when that was going to come up.
Welcome to you.